So, next reaction is oxidation of silicon. In fact, we are considering silicon oxygen equilibrium. So, if I write the reaction silicon plus 2O, that is equal to SiO2, this rounded brackets I am using for slag and a square bracket I am using for dissolved in metal. Delta G naught, the value is minus 542165 plus 202.83 T. Now, this is equation number 14. Now, remember this reaction is highly exothermic in nature. Now, about log of Ka silicon, that is equal to 30,110 upon T minus 11.4. Now, there are different sources have given slightly different value. I thought to give you the value of log K silicon from other sources also. So, log of K silicon from other sources is 29,700 upon T minus 11.24. In fact, this is equation 15, this is equation 16. 15 I have taken from the book of Ghosh and Chatterjee, the reference I have given at the end of this lecture. And this I have taken from the book Codrier et al. Again the reference I have given at the end of the chapter. So, now if I just calculate the value of, say, let us say now I calculate K silicon, for example, at temperature 1873, then K silicon that comes around 4.74 into 10 to the power 4, and if I calculate T 1773, then I get K silicon that is equal to 3.82 into 10 to the power 5, and this is from equation 15. Now, the same value of K silicon I calculate from equation 16, then I get T 1873 Kelvin, they are all Kelvin. Then K silicon is here 4.14 into 10 to the power 4, and at temperature 1773 Kelvin, K silicon that is equal to 3.24 into 10 to the power 5. So, this is from 16. So, what I wanted to tell you that you may be come across with the different sources and you may get slightly different value. So, accordingly I gave you just for the reference, but both the equation predict that the decreasing temperature increases the value of K silicon. That is our conclusion that we get at different temperatures. Now, if I write down the value of K from equation 14, then I get K silicon that is equal to activity of SiO2 in slag. Recall wet percent silicon in metal into wet percent O square, and let us put it this equation as 17. Now, if I write, say, wet percent silicon wet percent oxygen square, that is equal to activity of SiO2 upon K silicon. Let us put this equation as 16. So, we can see that oxidation of silicon is favored at low temperature. So, if I put the value of K, for example, K silicon at 1773, then wet percent silicon into wet percent square, that is equal to activity of SiO2 upon 3.24 into 10 to the power 5, and let us take it this equation is 19. So, we write down now wet percent oxygen, that is equal to 0.308 into 10 to the power minus 5 upon wet percent silicon, raised to the power 1 by half. So, if I plot now say weight percent oxygen against weight percent silicon, now this will be for 1773 Kelvin or 1500 degree Celsius, then I will get a straight line with the slope equal to minus half. So, all that it says that increase in silicon decreases the oxygen as this equation predicts. Now, if I take another temperature, for example 1800 degree centigrade, then probably then I may get this particular equation, that is increase in temperature, it does not allow silicon reaction to proceed. That means, a decrease in temperature favors the reaction of silicon. Also, if we see this equation number 17, we see that if we decrease the activity of SiO2, then silicon reaction is favored. So, what we can conclude from here, that in steel refining, silicon oxidation is very fast and silicon oxidized before any other impurities, because the heat of formation of SiO2 is very large, that means highly exothermic reaction. Second thing is that low temperature favors silicon oxidation, and basic slag also favors silicon oxidation. Why? Because if a slag is basic, the activity of SiO2 is drastically reduced, and hence the basic slag favors the reduction of silicon in the metal. Now, therefore, because of its very strong affinity of silicon with oxygen, now silicon is used as a deoxidizing agent, also. Now, for example, if a steel making with acid slag, the activity of SiO2 is very high, and hence silicon reduction or the silicon oxidation, it does not proceed that fast as compared to when you have the basic slag. Now, next let us consider the carbon oxygen equilibrium. Next, consider carbon oxygen equilibrium, also called oxidation of carbon. Now, this oxidation of carbon is the most important reaction in steel making. Now, let us consider the reaction. For example, C plus O, that is equal to CO, and here again I could get the different values of KCO from the literatures I am giving you. Use a log of KCO, that is equal to 1305 upon T plus 1.979. Now, if I calculate at 1873 Kelvin, the value of KCO, that it comes equal to 474. Let us call this equation as 21. Now, if I take another source, say, which gives log of KCO, that is equal to 1056 upon T plus 2.13. Now, here I get KCO 494. If I take even another source, log of KCO, that is equal to 1160 upon T plus 2.003, here I get KCO is equal to 419. Now, what I wanted to say, that depending on the source, these value of KCO, it may differ, and the reference of all the source I have given in the at the end of the lecture under the term references for further reading. Now, to understand the carbon oxygen equilibrium, let us write down the value of K. So, KCO, that will be equal to PCO upon HC into HO. Now, recall the solute elements in liquid steel, they obey Henry law. So, accordingly, I will write down PCO Fc into wet percent carbon FO wet percent oxygen, and let us call this equation as 22. Now, assuming say activity coefficient of carbon and oxygen in liquid still to be unity, however, this value may not be unity, but for the sake of calculation and understanding, let us take that Fc is equal to Fo, that is equal to 1, and if I substitute that value into the equation number 22, then I get wet percent carbon into wet percent oxygen, that is equal to PCO upon KCO. Now, this equation suggests that the product of wet percent carbon and wet percent oxygen, it depends upon partial pressure of carbon monoxide and the value of KCO. Now, if we take for example PCO, let us take it 1 atmosphere, and let us take the value of KCO, that is equal to for example 474. Now, if we do that, then what we get from here, that wet percent C into wet percent O, that is equal to 1 upon 474. Now, this value of 474 is at 1873 Kelvin. What we can do? We can plot. So, if we plot for example say wet percent O upon wet percent carbon, then what we get is this sort of relationship. This is just a schematic relationship. So, wet percent carbon increases from here and wet percent oxygen, it increases in this direction. So, what this reaction says, or what this plot suggests, that as the wet percent carbon increases, the wet percent oxygen dissolved in steel, it decreases. Also, this plot suggests that at low percent carbon in steel, the dissolution of oxygen increase also, because if you see at the lower ranges of carbon, the dissolution of the oxygen, it increases very fast. Now, for example, if I calculate, say take wet percent carbon and take here wet percent oxygen, and I calculate for different PCO values. I take PCO 1 atmosphere, 1.2 atmosphere and 1.5 atmosphere. So, if I do that, I put here the PCO is equal to 1 atmosphere, PCO 1.2 and PCO 1.5. If I take say 0.05% carbon, 0.1, 0.5 and 1.0. So, I calculate here 0.0425, 0.0213, 0.0042 and 0.0021. At PCO is equal to 1.2 atmosphere, 0.51, 0.026, 0.0054 and 0.0025. PCO is equal to 1.2 atmosphere. At PCO is equal to 1.5 atmosphere, I calculate 0.064, 0.032, 0.0064 and 0.0032. So, what this calculation suggests, that increase in the partial pressure of carbon monoxide, it increases the dissolved oxygen content in steel. So, if I plot these values, or if I just show schematically this value, if this is as 1 atmosphere PCO, then somewhere here I should have 1.5 atmosphere, and this particular range may have the range of partial pressure of CO. So, what I want to say from here is that increase in partial pressure of carbon monoxide, it increases the oxygen dissolved in steel. Now, you must be wondering what does it mean. Now, for example, if I consider a bath, is a hot metal bath. This is hot metal, and from here, for example, a nucleation site is somewhere here, and here carbon monoxide bubble is evolved. So, at this particular location, if this is the nucleating site for nucleation of C and O, that is equal to CO bubble, then the partial pressure or the total pressure on this bubble will be equal to P, that will be equal to P atmosphere plus this column pressure, that is rho LGH, where H is the bath height. So, what this says, if the nucleation of C plus O is equal to CO bubble occurs deep in the bath, then on account of the ferrostatic pressure plus atmospheric pressure that this bubble is exerted, because of that the dissolution of oxygen in the bath, it increases. Now, in another situation, for example, if the nucleating site, for example, here, say here somewhere here, if we have the slag. So, if the nucleating site is at the slag metal interface, then we can consider the nucleating bubble will be experiencing only atmospheric pressure, for example, equal to 1 atmosphere. So, between the range where the CO bubble is nucleating, depending on that the dissolved oxygen in steel, it may vary. So, now this reaction 21 suggests what it suggests. Say 12 kg carbon produces 22.4 meter cube carbon monoxide at 1 atmospheric pressure and 273 Kelvin. Therefore, 1 kg carbon produces 1.87 meter cube carbon monoxide at 1 atmospheric pressure and 273 Kelvin. This particular volume of CO at 1873, it will become 12.83 meter cube CO at 1 atmosphere and 1873 Kelvin. That is 1 kg carbon produces 12.83 meter cube CO at 1 atmospheric pressure and 1873 Kelvin. Now, suppose if I have 1000 kg hot metal which contains a 4% carbon and produces 0.2% carbon steel, then what I am doing? Then I am removing 38 kg of carbon. Now, this 38 kg of carbon, so removed carbon that is equal to 38 kg. Now, this 38 kg of carbon, will produce 488 meter cube of carbon monoxide when calculated at 1 atmosphere and 1873 Kelvin. And my dear friend, this is per ton of hot metal. Of course, this amount of CO will be evolving over a period of time. It is not that suddenly it will evolve. It will evolve over a period of time. So, you can think of that this reaction is very, very important in case of steel making. So, you can also imagine that this reaction, if suppose we consider 100 ton of hot metal, then for 100 ton of hot metal you can calculate the amount of CO that will be evolving, and hence the uninterrupted exit of CO gas must be ensured during refining of hot metal to steel. Now, with this what I mean is as follows. Now, for example, again I take a steel bath. This is hot metal containing 4% carbon. I am providing oxygen. There is no slag cover in the beginning. Then whatever the amount of CO which is evolving due to oxidation of carbon will be exiting uninterruptedly and continuously from the bath, because there is no hindrance. So, that is one extreme. Now, another extreme, consider the situation. I have here metal bath, and on the top I have slag. Slag will form because you supply oxygen, iron will oxidize to FeO. So, now the amount of CO that we calculate over the period of time, it should find its path for the exit uninterruptedly and continuously. That means, the slag cover which is on the top of the molten steel, it should not hinder the free passage of carbon monoxide. If it does, then slag will foam, and if no care is being taken, then slag will come out from the vessel, and that is a very, that is not at all desired for refining of hot metal to steel. Now, another situation you can also consider, for example, if say nucleating site is at the slag metal interface, then the bubbles will not have sufficient time to grow. The bubbles will be smaller in size, on account of which the slag will foam. In another situation, if the carbon oxygen reaction is deep seated in the bath, that is somewhere here, then the carbon monoxide bubble will have sufficient time to grow, their size will be greater, and hence they will find an easy escape. What I wanted to communicate here, that this carbon oxygen reaction is very important, because carbon monoxide is a gaseous product. If its exit is interrupted by some way, it can be interrupted, for example, by the viscosity of the slag. If the slag is highly viscous, then the bubbles are trapped into the slag and the slag will foam, and that is not at all a desired. So, what is being important, that for the gaseous product to exit, if the bath is covered by slag cover, the slag should have the properties which provide an easy escape of CO bubble during the entire refining period, because a large volume of CO bubble will be evolving, as you have seen in this particular calculation. Number 1. Number 2, since the carbon monoxide, it forms a gas, on its exit from the bath to the atmosphere, it will also provide stirring to the bath. So, what I mean to say, that this CO reaction or the product CO which is forming, it will provide bath stirring. And stirring of the bath will eliminate the concentration and temperature gradient. So, these are all the advantages. Another thing, as the CO exits through the slag, it will also provide stirring in the slag. It will also provide stirring in the slag. So, what are the advantages associated with the stirring of the slag? Suppose you have made a slag and you want to add something for the dissolution in the slag, then because of the good stirring, it will try to eliminate the gradient, and hence dissolution rate will be faster. So, these are the some of the advantages of the C plus O is equal to CO reaction, but at the same time, if easy escape of CO bubble is not guaranteed during their exit, then the slag will foam and it may come out from the vessel, and this particular phenomena is undesirable and it is called sloping, because it leads to large amount of metal also along with it. So, that point is to be kept in mind while we convert this knowledge into the practice. Now, say another important reaction that also can occur is carbon with the FeO. So, for example, carbon plus FeO, that is equal to CO plus Fe. Let us take this reaction as 23. Now, this reaction may cause slag to foam. Why? Because this reaction will be occurring at the slag metal interface or within the slag. The bubbles will not have a sufficient time to grow, their size will be smaller, on account of which the slag may foam if the properties of slag are not suitable for the easy escape of the carbon monoxide bubble. For this purpose, slag properties, its formation, they are also an important part of steel making. Now, this reaction C plus O is equal to CO has also importance during solidification of steel. Now, say as temperature decreases, so as temperature decreases, for example, KCO, it increases from 474 at 1873 Kelvin to 516 at 1773 Kelvin. What does it mean? So, increase in K will decrease wet percent carbon into wet percent oxygen, as you can note from the equilibrium reaction. What does it mean? If the wet percent carbon and wet percent oxygen decreases with the decrease in temperature, then CO evolution will occur during solidification, because when the steel solidifies, the temperature decreases. On account of decrease in temperature, because of the equilibrium consideration, the carbon monoxide reaction will occur during solidification, and this phenomena is called rimming reaction. And this phenomena is called rimming reaction. So, let us consider the next reaction, oxidation of phosphorus. Or phosphorus oxygen equilibrium. That is 2P in metal plus 5O, that is equal to P2O5 in slag. Log of Kp, that is equal to T minus 27.96. This is called equation number 24. Now, again I could get the another source also, which says this ln Kp, that is equal to 84851 upon T minus 66.9. Now, remember, this equation is ln. The earlier equation is in terms of log. So, if you calculate from both these values at a particular temperature, the value of K will come slightly different, but the trend of prediction with the temperature is same in both cases. Only I want to give you, depending on the source which you take for your calculation, the values may differ slightly. Now, for this reaction, delta G naught, that is equal to minus 740375 plus 535.365 T. Now, at temperature T is greater than 1382 Kelvin, delta G naught is positive. What does it mean? P2O5 will decompose and phosphorus will revert into the bath. Therefore, P2O5 or the activity of P2O5 must be decreased drastically. If we do not decrease the activity of P2O5, then whatever P2O5 will form, it will immediately decompose and the phosphorus reversal will be there. So, if I write down the value of Kp, Kp will be equal to activity of P2O5 upon wet percent P square wet percent O to the power 5. Let me put this reaction as 25. Now, we also know that wet percent O, that is equal to activity of FeO into wet percent O saturated. Take it 26, and in the earlier lecture we have seen log of percent O saturated, that is equal to minus 6320 upon T plus 2.734, that is, let us take equation number 27. So, by equation 25 and 26, we can replace wet percent oxygen in equation 25 by using equation number 26. Then we get, and after rearrangement, then we get Np2O5 upon wet percent P square, that is equal to Kp activity of FeO to the power 5 wet percent O to the power 5 saturated upon gamma P2O5. Let us call this equation 28. What I have done in this equation, I replaced activity of P2O5, that is equal to Np2O5 into gamma P2O5. Now, on the assumption that the slag obeys the Raoult's law, and hence gamma P2O5 is the activity coefficient of P2O5. Now, this ratio Np2O5 upon wet percent P to the power square, it denotes the dephosphorization index, that is, this ratio you can call, I am just writing DEP means dephosphorization, this is dephosphorization index, because Np2O5 is approximately proportional to wet percent phosphorus in slag. You can call this ratio dephosphorization index or coefficient of phosphorus partition or dephosphorization ratio, whichever way is convenient to you. What we want? Higher values of Np2O5 upon wet percent P needs low value of gamma P2O5, because we want to remove phosphorus from the hot metal. If you want to remove phosphorus from the hot metal, then the ratio Np2O5 upon wet percent P must be very large, and in order that this ratio should be large, gamma P2O5 should be very low for a given activity of FeO and given dissolved oxygen content in the bath. Now, let us consider, say, a situation. For example, consider activity of FeO that is equal to 0.31. That means we have created a slag which has activity of FeO equal to 0.31. Let us consider temperature equal to 773 Kelvin. Then we can calculate a temperature 773 Kelvin Kp, that is equal to 7.06 into 10 to the power minus 7. This is from equation 24. However, if you calculate from other equation, this value will be something different. Now, I can calculate also wet percent oxygen saturated, that will be equal to 0.15%, and that I have calculated from equation 27. Then wet percent oxygen, that will be equal to 0.15 into 0.31, that will be 0.0465. You can also calculate because we did this calculation earlier. Now I substitute all these values and try to know what value of gamma P2O5 I would require to remove phosphorus from metal to slag, or other way around to increase the ratio of Np2O5 upon wet percent P square. That is what I am trying to calculate. Now if I substitute all these values into equation say 28, then I will be getting gamma P2O5 that will be equal to Kp activity of FeO to the power 5 wet percent O to the power 5 into wet percent P to the power square upon Np2O5. Now this equation I just rearranged the equation 28. Now suppose I consider say Np2O5, say this is 0.01. Percent phosphorus I consider let us say 0.1. Now if I substitute all these values into this, then I will get gamma P2O5 that comes out to be equal to 1.53 into 10 to the power minus 13. Such a low value of gamma P2O5 can be attained by a basic slag. Since basic slag has a strong affinity with P2O5, so the activity coefficient of P2O5 can be drastically reduced. Now the differential basic oxides have different ability to lower gamma P2O5 as shown in the following equation. Log gamma P2O5 that is equal to minus 24.64 NCaO plus 0.682 NMgO plus 0.591 NMNO plus 0.545 NFeO minus 0.091 NSiO2 minus 42,000 T, now here T is in Kelvin, plus 23.58, and this is equation number 30. Now in the equation 30 you see that MgO is around 0.682 times as effective as that of calcium oxide. That means if the calcium oxide effectivity is 1, then MgO is only 0.68 times as effective as that of calcium oxide. So in relation to this, the basicity is defined, basicity can be defined as equal to wet percent CaO plus 2 by 3 wet percent MgO upon wet percent SiO2 plus wet percent P2O5, and this is equation number 31. This basicity in this particular form, it expresses the effectivity of different basic oxides on, for example, dephosphorization. As you see from this equation 30, that MgO is only 0.68 times effective as that of calcium oxide, MnO is 0.59 times effective, FeO is of the similar order of magnitude, whereas SiO2 has a negative influence on dephosphorization. This is the important thing. Na2O and BaO, they are even stronger than calcium oxide, but they corrode the lining and hence they are not very often used in the practice. Consider a slag. Say consider a slag NCaO, let us take it equal to 0.56, NMgO 0.12, NMNO 0.06, NFeO that is equal to 0.1, and NSiO2 that is equal to 0.16, and the basicity as defined by percent CaO upon percent SiO2 that is equal to 0.35, or we can say NCaO upon NSiO2 is equal to 3.5. Now, let us calculate gamma P2O5 at different temperatures. Let us calculate gamma P2O5 at different temperatures. So, for example, I take here temperature, I take here log gamma P2O5 and I calculate here gamma P2O5. I take 3 temperatures 1773 Kelvin, 1823 Kelvin and 1873 Kelvin. I calculate log gamma P2O5 minus 17.76 minus 17.11 minus 16.49. Gamma P2O5 is 1.74 into 10 to the power minus 18 and 78 into 10 to the power minus 18 and 3.21 into 10 to the power minus 17. Now, what is the conclusion? Conclusion is that log gamma P2O5 and hence gamma P2O5 increases with increase in temperature, with increase in temperature. So, what does it follow from here? That low temperature favors dephosphorization, as I have said many times that the low temperature favors the dephosphorization, and the calculation also shows, because one of the essential conditions for dephosphorization is drastically reduced activity of P2O5. So, the low temperature favors the dephosphorization. Now, let us show the effect of FeO and CaO. What is the effect of FeO and CaO on dephosphorization? Now, remember, phosphorus is a slag metal reaction. Phosphorus is a slag metal reaction. Now, with this I mean that the removal of phosphorus requires the presence of slag, number 1. Number 2, slag should also provide enough amount of oxygen for the reaction phosphorus to convert to P2O5. So, that is why it is called as a slag metal reaction. Now, as regards the nature of FeO, FeO in fact it can provide oxygen for the reaction, that means it can maintain oxidizing atmosphere. It is also basic in nature. However, it is weak base as compared to, for example, calcium oxide. So, in its role of oxidizing atmosphere, we can write down the reaction, say 2P plus 5FeO that is equal to P2O5 plus 5 iron. So, in this reaction FeO is providing oxygen to react with phosphorus and to get P2O5. Now, as regards calcium oxide cannot provide oxygen for reaction with phosphorus. So, calcium oxide it is only basic in character. Now, from the definition of basicity, it is the number of oxygen ions, that means calcium oxide can provide oxygen ions for the requirement of the reaction. Another important feature, calcium oxide is a stronger base as compared to FeO. So, if you write down the reaction, now total reaction 2P plus 5FeO plus 3CaO, that will be equal to 3CaO P2O5 plus 5 iron. Now, in this particular reaction, FeO, though it supplies oxygen for reaction with phosphorus, but it also plays the role of basicity. So, that means FeO has a dual role. FeO has a dual role, as I pointed out, oxidizing as well as basic, but weaker basic than calcium oxide. So, if any point of time of the reaction, if FeO replaces calcium oxide, then the dephosphorylation will decrease, because FeO is a weaker base than calcium oxide. Now, this effect is illustrated in the following figure. So, if I plot now here, if I plot wet percent FeO against percentage P2O5 in slag upon percentage phosphorus in metal, that is the dephosphorylation or index of dephosphorylation or coefficient of partition of phosphorus between slag and metal, whichever way you want to call. What I am plotting? I am plotting dephosphorylation index as a function of weight percent FeO. Of course, here is 0, here it is 0, as a function of basicity. So, basicity is defined here as B, that is equal to weight percent CaO upon weight percent SiO2. So, if I plot now for different V bar basicity ratios, so there, say for example, B, that is equal to 2, this is for example B is equal to 3, and this is for example B is equal to for example 4. Now, what this particular presentation indicates? First, it indicates that as wet percent FeO increases, the dephosphorylation index, it increases, reaches up to a maximum value, and after the maximum value, further increase in FeO, it decreases the dephosphorylation index. Now, this particular observation is valid for all basicities of slag. Now, what does it mean? That means, if we consider for example, a nature of variation for basicity equal to 4. As we increase the weight percent of FeO, the initial increase of dephosphorylation up to a certain optimum value of FeO, and then it further decreases after reaching the optimum value with the increase in the FeO content of the slag. Now, initial increase is because of the oxidizing effect of FeO. After reaching the maximum value, the concentration of FeO or the percentage of FeO in the slag increases, on account of which the FeO begins to replace calcium oxide, and FeO is a weak base as compared to calcium oxide. Therefore, the dephosphorylation again decreases beyond certain optimum value of percentage of FeO. That means, FeO has a dual role, one is oxidizing, and in the decreasing mode where dephosphorylation decreases, FeO, it dilutes the effect of calcium oxide. So, in fact, this optimum FeO is around 15 to 20% of FeO. So, that is what about the effect of FeO and CO. Now, summarizing this, summarizing the phosphorus reaction. Summarizing phosphorus reaction, you can write down 2P plus 5FeO plus 3CaO, that is equal to 3CaOP2O5 plus 5 iron, or in the ionic form we can also put it 2P plus 5O plus 3O2 minus, that is equal to 2PO4 3 minus. So, if I write down the value of K, K will be equal to activity 3CaO P2O5 plus activity of iron to the power 5 upon activity cube of calcium oxide upon activity 5 FeO upon activity square upon phosphorus. Now, this is in the slag, this is in the metal, this is in the slag, this is in the metal, and this is in the slag. Now, from here we can arrive best possible thermodynamic conditions, best possible thermodynamic condition for phosphorus removal. Number 1, as I illustrated, low temperature. Number 2, high FeO. But optimum value of FeO up to 15 to 20%, and third, high calcium oxide. That means slag should be basic and limey. Now, here it is important that FeO should be dissolved in slag, it should not be undissolved. Kinetically, stirring is always better for enhancing the rate of slag metal reaction. Now, just I have to tell little bit about the condition for simultaneous removal of carbon and phosphorus. Now, you know that from the point of view of steel making, hot metal contains silicon, carbon, manganese, phosphorus. You have also noted that the silicon and manganese, they are removed comparatively very fast. It is only carbon and phosphorus that require a little more time. So, let us see the simultaneous removal of carbon and phosphorus. I will initiate, then you complete it, and let us see. Say simultaneous removal of carbon and phosphorus. For that, we write down the reaction C plus O, that is equal to CO. Let us put it log of KCO 1305 upon T plus 1.979. Then I will write down 2P plus 5O, that is equal to P2O5, and log of Kp, that is equal to 38,668 upon T minus 27.96. Now, I can write down the value of Kp, I can write down the value of KCO, and I substitute them in order to get this equation. This you can do yourself. You write down the value of KCO, you write down the value of Kp, and then get the following equation: Np2O5 upon wet percent P whole square, that is equal to Kp into wet percent O to the power 5 upon gamma P2O5. Note, you have to use also activity of P2O5, that is equal to Np2O5 into gamma P2O5. Now, I have to replace wet percent O also. Already I have given the equation. So, if I do that and if I substitute that value of wet percent O over here, and I try to get this equation gamma P2O5, that will be equal to Kp into wet percent P whole square upon KCO to the power 5, wet percent carbon to the power 5 Np2O5. So, for the simultaneous removal of carbon and phosphorus, the value of gamma P2O5 calculated from this equation is required. Now, let us do some simple calculation. Say I take temperature equal to 1773 Kelvin, I take say wet percent phosphorus, let us take 0.15%, wet percent carbon in metal, let me take 2%, Np2O5, let me take 0.1, then I can calculate the value of Kp, that is equal to 7.06 into 10 to the power minus 7. I calculate value of KCO 519. Now I substitute all these values into this, say gamma P2O5. If I substitute all these values, then I will be getting gamma P2O5 equal to 1.317 into 10 to the power minus 22. What this suggests? Simultaneous removal of carbon and phosphorus is possible. It is possible only when the activity of P2O5 is drastically reduced, then the carbon reaction and phosphorus reaction can take place together. Now, as here itself I can illustrate what will happen if I increase the temperature. Now, suppose if I increase temperature to 1873 Kelvin, then Kp, that is equal to 4.08 into 10 to the power minus 8, KCO, that is equal to 474, and then the gamma P2O5 which I will require, that is equal to 1.42 into 10 to the power minus 23. That is, if you go for a little higher temperature, phosphorus reaction may occur, but then you still require a very large reduction in the value of gamma P2O5. Therefore, for the simultaneous removal of carbon and phosphorus, one has to see a slag which has a very low value of gamma P2O5 is formed, and then carbon and phosphorus reaction may be allowed to take place simultaneously such that the carbon removal is slightly delayed as compared to the phosphorus removal. So, that point you should remember. I will be needing it when we will go in the modern steel making practice. Now, I will give you the references and the questions for self assessment. Now, here are the some questions for your self assessment on the oxidizing reactions. What is the principle of steel making? Write the chemical reactions occurring during refining of hot metal to steel at slag metal interface and gas metal interface. Already I have given. Second, what are the essential requirements for removal of phosphorus from hot metal in steel making? Right now we have discussed. Mention the importance of CO reaction in steel making and in solidification. Both things I have discussed. One way is provide good agitation and it provides a rimming reaction during solidification. Is it possible to remove carbon and phosphorus from hot metal simultaneously? Explain. Just now I discussed in brief, that is towards the end of the lecture. I will request you to write down the equilibrium values, to calculate and get a feel that the simultaneous removal of carbon and phosphorus is possible only when the activity of P2O5 is drastically reduced, and that is the secret of success of modern steel making practice. Discuss the conditions for reduction of manganese from slag to metal. Calculate the amount of CO evolved during refining of 100 ton hot metal containing 4% carbon to steel containing 0.2% carbon. Analyze the answer in terms of operation. Now, all that I wanted you to understand how much amount of CO will be evolved and what is its implication in terms of foaming of the slag, in terms of easy escaping tendency from the atmosphere. 7. Discuss the physical significance of activity and activity coefficient of an element or compound in solution with reference to chemical reaction. Only thing I want you to stress to know the physical meaning of activity. Anything which is free, it is highly active. Anything which is not free is not active, and hence its activity will be reduced. So, it is in that term you have to understand activity and activity coefficient. Say I wrote here good luck. Now, these are the references for further reading.